Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Online Bible Institute Network podcast. I'm Douglas Laws. With me are Pastor Brain and my father, Pastor Steve. And we're excited to be back. We missed last week. It was pre-Easter last Thursday, so we didn't get our normal recording time in. But thankful to be here today. You guys, how was your week this week before we jump in with our sermon notes? We'll start with Pastor Brain.
All right. Good to be here. I missed the last session, including last week, so I've not been here for 2 weeks. Yeah, but it's been a great, busy week leading up to Easter. I mean, it should have been busy for everyone. Yeah, but it was great. And Sunday passed well. We had evangelism in the morning. That was how we had our sunrise. So yeah, we had evangelism and got to church, and it was literally a service of praise. Yeah, though not planned though. It was just an exciting moment. So we had a really good time. The week has been great, and it's been exciting working on the new systems and stuff as well, with the OBIN network. So it's great and going great. Looking forward to even a better weekend this weekend and next week.
Good. Yeah, we've been real busy. My background is messing up. Is it messing up for you guys too?
It just looks like it's got a lightning storm on the wall. It's really not a big deal. It's a lighting thing. I was telling my dad this week, and he didn't believe me, that I wanted to upgrade his camera and lighting setup. He's like, "It's fine." Now he's regretting his decision.
I put some front light on there. Is that better?
Yeah. And then this week we'll get Dad a curtain or something for that.
Yeah, I can block the other light. Anyway, that seems to fix the
front light and not having the sunlight on the side of your face. It looks like you're almost transfigured. You're like half transfigured.
I'm glowing.
He's glowing, baby.
I wonder. Yeah. Oh, well, I'm not going to mess with it anymore. But that's such a bright light. I can't see. Let me see if I can stop.
Key lighting issues. You have to light the subject, but subject does not like light.
It's so bright in my eyes. Sorry. All right. There we go. That's going to be what it is. Busy, post-Easter is always kind of interesting sort of little setup. And we're getting ready to go on a little break here, Alice and I. So we're getting ready to do that as well. Not a long one, 10 days, but looking forward to that. And we'll still be in touch by computer and stuff. Just getting out of Dodge for a little bit. So we've been doing those things, and like Brain said, we've been really busy working on the learning management software that runs everything. We did it without it for a very long time, for 10 years, and then we've decided to make the transition. So Brain and I are working all the time on courses, and we're getting close. So I'm looking forward to all of that.
That's going to be exciting.
Yeah. How about you, Doug? What was your week like?
Yeah, we had a really nice Easter. I attempted to make a lamb for dinner on Easter, and we had it. And as I was eating it, I was like, I don't know if I'm enjoying this or not. So we were fortunate. We were able to go over to our friend's house who had like an open invite for us, and they had ham.
Yeah.
We were a little more comfortable with that. But it was a good Easter. And if you enjoy lamb, that's great. I thought I would, and it's just not. It wasn't there for me. And the rest of the week has been good. Just plugging along. I'm wearing the hockey hat. I take this with my boys. On Saturdays we've been doing their roller hockey league. They're playing, and I've been like a little assistant coach. And their last game is this Saturday. So while I'll be thankful for more time not going to Key West, it'll be sad because we've had a blast with that. But that's what's coming up, and it really has nothing to do with our sermon for this week. But
no, I wanted to say too. It's funny your lamb story, because during this week, Doug was saying, "How come we never had lamb as kids?"
Yeah, I had no idea because I'd never had.
And
lamb
I was
before.
like, "We never had it because we don't like it."
Mm-hmm.
And so he tried it and he's like, oh, now I get why we never had it.
But yeah, I wouldn't have known. I might have loved it, you know.
You could have. You have to try it for yourself, but that's
Right.
why we never did.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
You
okay.
get to know the hard way that you didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right. Well, we're
We keep the boys well this Saturday. You know, it's live. Everything live is related to the sermons and to what we do. So yeah, wishing
it's
them
true.
the best. After their first win, they should get a second one.
They've gotten 2 wins, and then
Oh,
they'll go. Yeah, my younger son is the starting goalie now. He's in front of the net, and it takes
that's
like
great.
2 giant duffel bags full of equipment to outfit him. But he's been doing well, and with him the growth has been amazing because at the start of the season he couldn't skate at all, and that was late January. Now he's the starting goalie, and he's doing a good job. So it's exciting.
That's
Seeing
interesting.
that, yeah. They probably don't. Do you get to watch hockey in Cameroon at all?
Not really. We don't.
No, I did. It's not. Yeah, I don't. I didn't think so. It's a very northern European
Yeah,
sport for sure.
we stumble on that on YouTube. We watch it and that's it. It's
Yeah.
not a thing.
No,
It's like you
curious.
probably don't have the bobsled team either in Cameroon.
Yeah.
Well, no, that was Jamaica that had that. It's probably a lot of football, soccer, right? I'm guessing that would be
Yeah.
like the sport of choice there.
That's what
Yeah.
it is. Football, handball, and volleyball for some, basketball for others, and that's it.
Do they have cricket there?
Now we don't.
No. Okay. Yeah.
Not a British influence then.
No. Well, that was Cameroon's more of a French influence, right?
Yeah, the French and the British, we're influenced by both, but French is the major influence here.
Yeah, everybody likes soccer, really. It's a fun sport, and hockey and soccer have the goalie position in common, but soccer, the net
Yeah.
is like a mile
And
long.
we're considered one of the best in Africa. For that, we have Samuel Eto'o, we have great guys, Roger Miller, these guys who have written down. Samuel Eto'o is like the best all-time African football player now. So we're proud of that.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's
I
good.
mean, every country in the world, other than like the United States, takes it very seriously. So, but the Miami team got Lionel Messi, and he's the guy from
Yeah.
Argentina who's really good. And
That's right.
it's funny. I look at tickets for their games, and the difference from when he plays versus when he doesn't play, the ticket cost is kind of funny. I'm like, oh, I only would go to see him because he's the only one I could name from that team.
Yeah. We are not big soccer.
No.
fan.
Anyway, what we are fans of are our sermons at Keys
Yes.
Vineyard Church. And we had a great Easter weekend at our church, and we were leading up with Kingdom Incarnate 16 and that. You're going to be finishing up the series this week. So, Dad, why don't you kind of, give us a quick recap of what you talked about this last weekend as we move into the final part of Kingdom Incarnate.
Yeah, we're running up to the end of the series, and it was good. We were able to tie in, the whole Good Friday, the week before, the lead in, and all of those things coming up, and then we were able to discuss over Easter some different ideas, hanging out in Luke still, and the pointing people at what was going on and why Jesus had to do what he did. And we're gonna, as we sort of end the series, we're gonna take a little step back and review some stuff in Luke just before, because I want to tie the story together. We're gonna really be talking about Cleopas and his the 2 disciples on the road that Jesus encounters right after the resurrection. So that's where we'll start. We'll be in Luke 24, and that's a fascinating story. Cleopas, in the Bible just says they named Cleopas, but not the other disciple. But I'm fairly confident it's Cleopas and his wife, because there's some great tie-ins later that would seem to make that true. And so we'll discuss it. It doesn't have to be that way, but it seems to be that way, that they've been in Jerusalem. They were expecting Jesus to take over. He didn't. And they leave, and they're walking away from Jerusalem, and Jesus encounters them on the road. This is just right after the resurrection. One thing I'm always most amazed of is that Jesus shows up. I mean, it's resurrection day. He's just popped out of the tomb, and he shows up and he walks with them and spends like the whole day with them. And I always think it probably had a lot of stuff going on. You know what I mean? But somehow he's like, so I love that part of the story. That's the concern of Jesus, because these two are sort of, they've lost their hope, and he comes with them and he's hanging with them and he's walking with them, and he sort of makes the point for them that the thing, that he really had to do was he came to fulfill Israel's scriptures, and he goes and he takes them through how everything was pointing at him, which we've been talking about for quite some time together, and the importance of that. And then I want to tie in briefly some of the stuff we've been looking at with some of the courses we're going through, and I want to make a connection between suffering and glory, and the cross and the throne, and how if we go back one chapter into Luke 23, you see the two criminals that are crucified with Jesus, one on the right and one on the left, and one repents and one doesn't. And the one who repents makes it that day with Jesus into the kingdom. And that there's a quick tie-in then into the Olivet Discourse in Matthew, where Jesus says when he comes into his kingdom, he's going to separate the right and the left, the goats and like he does it already right there on that day. It's the beginning of that happening, and there's this great tie-in then of the now and the not yet, the tension, the everything happening, that somehow the cross and the throne are all happening in Jesus, because everything's happening in Jesus. And there's just a lot to sort of wrap around. And I'm going to touch on that because I can't go too deep in that, but we'll hit some of that sort of tension, now and not yet stuff in the next series. It'll set it up. And then I'm going to wind up with back with Cleopas and the other disciple, who I think his wife, how they stop and have a communion time with Jesus, and the connection between this communion. I think there's a very strong connection between this and what happens back at the fall with Adam and Eve, because when she takes and eats and gives to her husband. And communion is all about take, eat, and give, but it's reversing things. And when Jesus does it at the Last Supper, it's a reversal. And then here it is with these guys, and it's another picture of the reversal of what happened at the fall, because Jesus takes, eats, and gives to them. And at the fall, when they took from and ate from the tree they shouldn't, and then all of a sudden their eyes were opened and they realized that they were naked and ashamed, shame, fear, everything pops in. But with this Last Supper that they have with Cleopas and his wife at that table, suddenly their eyes are opened, and Jesus is gone. But their eyes are open, and their shame and their guilt's all taken away. To me, that's the connection, and so I think it's very powerful. And so I'll be building on that, and that will sort of lead us into the next series called Kingdom Tension, and I will talk more about that in the next podcast. But Kingdom Tension is going to be the tension that we live in between Jesus' first and second coming, and what that means, and that Jesus is the beginning and the end all at the same time. Well, that'll be fun to think about. But I want to really talk about in this next series how the church lives in this tension, and that the church is the instrument of the kingdom of God, and that in that context, it's really all about relationships. And so we'll be looking through the New Testament, but we'll be looking at relationships, our relationship with God, our relationship with other believers, and then our relationship with, we could call them the lost. I like to think of them pre-Christians, and what that looks like, and how all those relationships are impacted by living in tension, and what that means. And so that's going to be that next whole series, and we'll have some fun pointing out a lot of the now and not yet stuff as we kind of move along. But that's kind of the overview of what's coming this week, and I'm looking forward to it. We'll see how much time I have to do. There's a couple of pretty good stories in there, so I'm not sure, because the whole, I think the cross and the throne thing is really fun to look at, that connection, and then this supper to supper to supper connection is pretty cool too. So both of those could take a whole message, and I'm trying to squeeze them both into one.
Sure. That's always hard because you could have a 40-part series just going
That
over
would go
that.
on forever, yeah. So
We had Putty Putman on the podcast 2 weeks ago, and yeah, a lot of what we went over in that course, you're kind of, mentioning along with some other stuff too. So it's cool to see the Olivet discourse. Do we have like a document anywhere people could look into? Because before, I did the Putty course that we did, I hadn't heard of it. And so
Well,
just kind of say, and it's probably like a thing that's been around for a while, So I'm
it's
just
just the discussion that Jesus had in the garden, sort of right before
okay.
the olive is it's a
Oh,
whole connection. So it's different parts of scripture. So the Matthew 25, 24, 25, could be 23, 24, 25 are all considered part of the Olivet
I see.
discourse, I believe. So you could go and sort of get ready. You could go and look at those things. Let me.
That's why it's important to take notes during seminary. I'm sure I've heard it, but
Yeah, it's just
forgot the term.
Yeah, it's
But Putty had this chart, and it just like, okay, here's the thing in this. This is him literally accomplishing it in the next chapter or so. Like there was just this whole list
Yeah.
that I thought was cool.
The
I like
discourse
seeing
is-
charts. I don't know, very visual.
it's Matthew 24, and then there's also little parts of it in Mark and Luke 21. So
Okay.
it's just that discussion that he preached from the Mount of Olives, and it's just a way of sort of talking about it.
Gotcha.
So
Great.
24, 25, Matthew 24 and 25 is pretty, I said it, and then those other couple of little chapters. So it's interesting because he's talking about what's going to happen in the sort of future, and at the same time it happens at the cross. and it's so I love it when those things are happening. He's making some pretty significant tie-ins. Yeah. So yeah, should be fun.
And when you when you mention that connection between the what happened in the Old Testament, they took the fruits and ate, and their eyes were open. And here Jesus gives, and they eat, and their eyes are open. But in both in those two scenarios, they each see, but they see differently. One's eyes are open to evil, and the eyes of the others are open to redemption, sort of to life. So that brings me back to something that I've heard you say over and over. If we allow God to teach us good and evil, we would likely end up doing good, because he teaches us, and he gives us the grace to be able to choose what is right and do his will. But if we go to learn good and evil by ourselves, because there they get it, they get the fruit and they eat by themselves, not at the command of God, actually contrary to God's instruction, God's command. But at this point in time, Jesus gives them to eat, and when they eat it, what they see is Jesus. They see the truth about Jesus. Their eyes are open, blindness is taken away. And so you have two cases of blindness, and they both see, or they all see, because we're dealing with 4 people here. They all see, or more, and one sees onto destruction, and the other one sees onto life, or sort of. So as you were talking about that, I was just reflecting on the things that you've said in the past, and how these actually just relate. And you've made me to fall in love with these times as well. These connections. they really get me excited because yeah, I can see that. Let Jesus teach us what is right, and we will do it. If he tells us what good and evil is, it's for our good. But if we go look for it ourselves, seek it out by ourselves, we will get it wrong, and it will lead to death.
Yeah, there's something about these connections in the Bible that as you start to see them, it makes the Bible so much more exciting, right? I mean, it's uh we'll talk when we discuss our course later on, but Putty in one of the courses we're taking, when he starts talking about trilogies, and when you realize that the Bible is like this big trilogy, the way he put, there's the first part is the Old Testament, sort of from Genesis to David, somewhere in there, and then the second part is the prophets, and a lot of people drop out in there because they don't understand it, and then the New Testament's the third part, and if you haven't hung out in the second part or the first part, and you're just in the third, it doesn't connect. You need the whole thing, and then it's like, okay, now I get it. Now, I needed to know why the prophets and the kings were kind of battling one another all the time, and why, the prophets were there trying to give them God's wisdom, and the kings refused, and why it always and ends up in exile. It had to, right? And then what exile has been going on since the garden, but here we got it, and Jesus is finally the way back. When I think that starts to pop off in people's heads, and they realize that they're into something much bigger than they ever expected. I mean, when I came to Jesus, I was happy to come to Jesus, and that was a big deal. But I didn't. The way that the story has opened up since has made it so much better, right? It's like, I was in because it was the right sort of decision. But how he backs it up with a word and the bigger story, just to me, is like, well, this is so amazing. And you're trying to figure out, how do you get people to hear this? Because it'll change their life, but it's, you have to kind of go real slow. Okay, here we go. We're going to take it and we're going to run it out for a couple of years and keep saying the same thing and hope that it makes sense. Yeah.
I agree. So makes sense.
Yeah. Good.
Great, it's great work. And your story is really fascinating because having those encounters. When you shared it on Sunday, you kept saying there was, the ladder issue, and you kept saying there was definitely someone with me, and in my mind I was like, yeah, no one can understand what you're saying because you were there in that experience, and you know what happened. So it sounds funny when you insist that there was someone there on that ladder with you, holding you from falling, and that just speaks to how God customizes His relationship with us to a personal level. We can talk of God as my God without jeopardizing the experiences of others. This is who God is to me. This is what I've known God to be. God has revealed Himself to me in this way. And sometimes I feel that until we get to that personal level of revelation of Jesus, we cannot really trust Him. And whatever we do at that point is on the surface, and it doesn't really get us anywhere. So we should press for those kinds of encounters that are on a personal level, customized to us. We cannot express it fully to the understanding of others because it's about us, right? And He does that. Maybe if that incident didn't happen, maybe you would never have believed in, because everything will be stories to you. You want to have fun, and you don't see that. But Jesus brings some fun into your life,
For me, that's still extremely real. That was a long time ago now. So, 45 years ago. And 40 years. I was 19. How old am I now? I'm 65. 45 was right the first time. When it's still, the whole thing is as crazy as it was. There are parts of that are so real to me, him getting out. But, as I look back on it, little things like that guy giving me his Bible, like, at the time, okay. But I think, wow, I mean, that was huge, right? That guy loved Jesus enough and cared about me enough that he handed me his personal Bible. And I was so rough and wild, like you wouldn't, here, and that it's still with me, right? I mean, it's crazy that that's still here. I still have it. I haven't put it away yet.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to show us that because
Well, yeah, I got to thumb through it. He got that Bible in 1975. That's a 50-year-old Bible.
you can imagine that.
Yeah, he gave it to me in '79, but like, let's see. So you can see, without
Yeah,
giving away all his stuff, like that's his.
great love, from
The other thing he did, I was with that first summer when he gave me that sandwich. And then every day he brought me a sandwich. I mean, that's he didn't have to do that, right? Every day, boom, here's a sandwich for you. And I often think that's why at our church we give away food so much, because I know what it speaks to. There's something that
a lot of food.
we give food away all the time. We have a whole truck that goes away and gives food away all the time. And I'm pretty confident it ties back to here's a sandwich and how, that it, and it wasn't like an immediate, it took me years to figure it out, but there was those connections. When I started thinking about Jesus, those connections started popping up. So you just never know the impact you have.
And he was really persistent. I'm not even sure he was like a pastor or something.
He was just a Christian, loved God. They used to, and it was funny at work. He would go off a lot of times at lunch. He would leave and they'd go have Bible studies. And he'd always say, "You want to come?" I'm like, "No." And now I think it would have been so cool, right? I would have, but then no. And I used to play cards. I played euchre. So anyway, well, good. We could go on and on, but we're gonna shut this one down, Doug.
It's all about personal relationship. So you guys that was great insight there, Pastor Brain. And yeah. Anyway, this was a great talk. We're actually going to be recording the next podcast in this recording session, but we're going to put the stop here. So yeah, be on the lookout. I will post it next week, part 2. But anyway, God bless you all. Keep reading your Bible, all that good stuff. We will see you next time.